G'day, guys, and welcome to the Centre Bounce. We're here talking about the Defender Premos on our radar. Stay tuned. Big J, here we are. Happy New Year to you and to all our beloved viewers. It's good to be back from my break. I haven't shaved. You know it's holiday mode still.
Hey, I haven't shaved either, so I'm still making videos. It's not an excuse, but holidays are fantastic, and we all kind of have to take them. I know we spoke a little bit off air about this time being the perfect time to take a break. You know, all the players aren't here, unless you're doing, resolutions for each team video. There's not a lot of stuff happening at the moment.
No, there isn't. And I took advantage of that, and I thought, great time to go away. If the players are on vacation, God damn it, I'm going to be on vacation too. But that's it. We're back. And we got to fill in that Supercoach itch that we've got because Team Picker is out. We've shared our first teams, but obviously everyone's changing and everyone's trying to keep track of all of the training reports, trying to get ahead of the curve. Who are the fake premiums? Who are the traps? We're getting a lot of comments about various players who are traps, and so hopefully we can help our viewers sort of make that decision for themselves.
Yeah, and one of the big things as well is that pre-December, it's all about managing injuries, that kind of thing, whereas post-December, kind of this part of the preseason, it's really when you start to watch those players who you want to put in your teams. How are they tracking? If they miss most of January, you could be really worried about potential injuries or position changes and things like that. So that's where videos like this kind of come in handy.
Absolutely. So, as we mentioned, today we're talking about the defenders, and so that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Let's sort of zoom in a little bit here. Who do we have first off the bat, Big J?
I think Nick Daicos is going to be the first one. He is the most expensive, so we'll probably end up going down the list. But we know how strong he was last year, and we know how punished people were for not picking him last year after coming off, a rising star season the year before. So, yeah. Is he on your radar at the moment, Joe? Are you looking at picking him up or kind of waiting until after because he's playing that first bye, right? He's played round 0, so he's got some time off afterwards. Are you waiting to bring him in then or a bit later? Or to start
Look, I'm happy to start him because, I mean, he'll play round 1, 2, 3. So he's going to have a price rise before his bye. It's not like that awkward spot where like your Brisbane Carlton or Gold Coast GWS are, which fall like right there where normal price rises would occur. So I'm definitely a lot happier and more comfortable to start Nick Daicos compared to players from those buys, which I can always pick up a bit later down the track if I really need to. And this guy really should have won the Brownlow in his second year. And I think that goes to show that is that at the ceiling? Probably not. More physical development, another preseason into him, and to be honest, I'm not sure how many teams are going to be assessing over the preseason how they're going to stop this one guy because they can still win without him. So I imagine his role will be much the same.
I've heard some comments online about, cool, he's got Finn McGuinness early. We don't even know if Finn McGuinness is best 22 at this point. So I wouldn't be putting my hat on, cool, Daicos is going to get tagged to oblivion and things are going to happen. You've really got to start picking the players that you want. And the matchups will kind of figure themselves out, right? McGuinness could go to someone else. It really doesn't matter too much.
We had this exact discussion about Finn McGuinness in the preseason on Nick Daicos last year, and we saw what happened. So there's going to definitely be a correction. Well, I reckon I'm going to be starting Nick Daicos this year.
Yeah. Now, the tricky thing for me and probably for you is midfield or picking him in the defense at the moment?
I'm thinking it's going to be midfield, to be honest. I think there's quite a bit of not premium value in the back line, as well as, it depends whether or not you believe this guy is worthy of selection in there or not. But look, for me, I'm leaning him in the midfield, to be honest. What about yourself?
Uncertain, Uncertain. Just depends on if I think his kind of average of a 115 for the price is beaten out by anyone in the midfield for the same price. And like you say, chasing the value a little bit early. Because if you miss out on those rookies, you're kind of stuck. So
Yeah, because all of this discussion, we're talking about the premiums here, but it's been the way you play the game. It's the rookies dictate your structure, and I think there's a lot of great value in the back line. I think there's a bit less in the midfield, which is probably why he's going to be lining up in my midfield.
Yeah, no, definitely. James Sicily's up next. So a guy that really punished me. And I'm not sure about you, but he's definitely in my sights to be playing early. He is playing, I believe, that round 0 game. So we will get a little bit of a look.
No, he's got the bye.
He's not? Oh,
no.
Mate, well, even better. So we don't even have to worry then. So I'm just going to go James Sicily all the way. Give me those preseason games, and then we're just going to go crazy with him. So Sicily, similar with Petrarca and a couple of other players, really punished me last year for not picking them. So to have Sicily in my team early, even if he has his good games and bad games, through the bye rounds, the early ones especially, it's about getting those players in with the huge ceilings. And we know from scoring last year that Sicily had a couple of weaker games, but can pop out a 170 on a good day. So it's going to hurt not having him in your team.
And when you pick him up, he is going to continuously play for you for the whole first half of the season.
Yeah.
Because he won't play in round 0, which isn't even an active round for Supercoach anyway, apart from the prices, of course. But in terms of scoring, he doesn't play round 0, but from the opening of Supercoach, you will have him the entire season up until round 15. So when he has his bye. So for me, there's absolutely no reason for me not to start this guy. And if you haven't watched, guys, Big J's discussion with Daz from a couple of weeks ago now, where he talks about the Hawks and what they're going to be looking forward to next year, it seems like there's going to be a different sort of setup. Sicily could be going back to that intercepting beast that we all know that he can be, which as we all know, means heaps of points, plus 8 points.
Yeah, no, so it's a hard one to miss if you don't have him. And you don't want to be chasing like 650K earlier on in the season.
No, you don't. It's going to be really hard, and that's it. He's only going to go up in price. I don't see Sicily dropping, to be honest. I think this is a very fair price. You're not getting him for value. You're getting him for set and forget without paying a kidney in order to get him in.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Now, this guy, Tom Stewart, I love Tom Stewart more than the next guy. He was my first selected player last year. I think he also was my first selected player the year before that as well. So I love me some Tom Stewart. A massive rap for him, and anyone who talks bad about him on any Discord, I always jump into his defense because he's such a reliable player. He even if he has a really crap game and you think that he was nowhere to be found, he will still find a way to ton up. It is remarkable the way he plays this game. But he is getting another year older, and the reports are that he's going to be playing in the midfield. Now, do I trust Chris Scott as far as I can throw him? No, I do not. However, all you can do is pay attention and keep track of things that I don't think a midfield role will suit Tom Stewart. He is the best seagull in the game, who also doing some genuine defending. He's not shameless like Lloyd. He'll actually do some defending as well. But I just don't know this move into the midfield is all that cracked up, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. Obviously, Radigali has left that backline, and SDK and Zach Guthrie, kind of your backline pillars at the moment. Crazy to think Zach Guthrie is a backline pillar at Geelong. But yeah, these guys down there kind of playing that lockdown role, which does free up Stewart a little bit. But I think they're going to try and put a bit more time into guys like O'Sullivan, who they picked up early in the draft, who they were very, very happy to get. So does that affect Tom Stewart in some way? Maybe. He's not a start for me at the moment, but could come into my side, given preseason form.
Look, I've noticed Geelong started playing him a little bit differently in 2023. They were very happy for him to push up and have very aggressive positioning, and almost really introducing him into the midfield a little bit in 2023. So, to be honest, as normally I don't trust anything that comes out of Geelong, but based on what I saw in 2023, and the way they were happy to experiment with him, move him around, and even give him a taste of midfield minutes, I actually am likely to believe that he is going to feature more in the midfield in 2024, which for someone of his age, he had a late start. You tend to be protected playing a free roaming defensive role in that back line. It's very different to being a lot more in the midfield, a lot more contact, a lot more possible injuries. I'm going to stay away from Tom Stewart for the first time in a long time. I'm staying away from Tom Stewart as a starting selection.
Yeah, like you'd rather put the extra 2K into a Sicily than a Tom Stewart if you know one's intercepting in the back line and the other one's potentially playing mid. So who's up next?
Look, Luke Ryan, I wasn't considering him at all. But if Hayden Young, by all reports, is moving into the midfield, Luke Ryan essentially has a monopoly in that back line. Now, even with Hayden Young in the back line, Luke Ryan was still by far and away the number one kick-in taker. If Hayden Young is playing more time on the ball and outside of the back line, it just means more kick-ins for Luke Ryan. And if you are essentially the number one kick-out taker in any given team in your back line, those are 3 points. That gives you a high floor. So look, he's also he plays for Fremantle, who also have the best buys. If we pull up the chart again, they don't play in round 0, but then their buy, this is the only buy. It's them and Port Adelaide, and this is the best buy out of them all because it means in the best 18 format, you've got most of your players still around. So it's good to have a guy like Luke Ryan. It's silly. It's silly.
Are you convincing yourself here, Joe? I feel like you're slowly getting towards Luke Ryan in your team.
It's ridiculous. He's a good player. He's a good intercept. He's a good kick. I don't know, man. This is sort of bananas, but at the same time, it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, 2022, he averaged 96, which is, around the mark, but 2023 was his big year. That's when he jumped to that 109 average. So if Hayden Young, as you say, is moving into that back line, maybe you don't have the extra 20K to get a Sicily or a Stewart or someone else in. And maybe you want a bit of pot of difference as well. You could have a lot of players playing those early buys and thinking, hey, look, I really need someone who can just play the whole time. I'm pretty sure Luke Ryan was close to being top ranked in that defense last year. So we could wait and see what happens. But yeah, he's definitely an option. Similar to the next guy. Oh, not Sinclair, but the guy after Sinclair.
Oh, the guy after Sinclair. I don't want to talk about him. The Burn Man. I don't want to talk about Dan Houston. Why are you going to get me to talk about Dan Houston? So broke my heart after the siren. Don't do that to me.
Luke Ryan was 5th best defender last year. So, for that price, it could be an option there for you.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I do reckon he is a genuine option. He's got a great kick-to-handball ratio. He's definitely a kicker. He plays on almost all the time from his kick-ins. And again, it sort of depends if you think Freo are going to be bad, because it means he's going to get a lot more supply in that back line. I don't think they have improved, given their ins and their outs. So, and if he's going to be the only one in their back line, it seems to me that he's going to get even more supply without the competition from Hayden Young. So, it is genuinely an option. A wait and see. His durability isn't the best. So that's probably the one thing that might sway me against him.
Now, Jack Sinclair is a bit of a tricky one because last year, the man came out of the gun. Well, maybe not last year. Maybe 2022 is what I'm thinking of. But playing kind of half back and then midfield role for St Kilda at times really kind of showed his versatility. But it also made him have some crappier games in Supercoach. The second half of the season was fantastic. Post-bye, after round 12, fantastic. But before that, when he was moved around a little bit and kind of St Kilda was in their soft patch, he did have some crappier scores. So for me personally, he's a no, just given his price and the other options. But I can kind of see where some people might pick him. What do you reckon?
Look, I reckon with these guys here that we're talking about, these top few players, they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. They're all good players. They're good at what they do, and what they do is Supercoach scoring friendly. So that's why historically it's been beneficial, I think, for the both of us when it came to our starting teams to stock up on these defensive premiums, because they weren't fluctuating wildly in price. They tended to be more reliable than your mids almost when it comes to the scoring. And Sinclair is again no exception, like the other guys that we talked about. His biggest attribute, I think, which allows him to score so well, is that he is an amazing accumulator. He is so good at finding the pill, and Ross Lyon is very happy to move him wherever he needs to be put in order to get more of the ball. He has line breaking ability, and that's something that they didn't have for some time. That's why they added Hill. They brought Hill across back to the Saints. They put Nasiah Wang and Miller in the back line. Does that mean Sinclair plays more on the ball as opposed to playing half back now that they've got these extra players, I suppose, now, and especially with Nasiah getting more responsibility? I don't know, man. It's an interesting one. He's probably not top of my list, but I can see why people would select him.
It's definitely something to track through the preseason, where he sits up in the position of the other players, but then also in the preseason games as well. His scoring's fantastic. Kind of going back to what you were saying about the backline being that consistent scorer. I think that's been the same since maybe 2019, 2020, where the midfield can get really affected by the ball use and whatnot. The forward line's always been shit, but the back line's always been like, if you can get kind of 6 premiums who are scoring you 100 plus every week, you're doing very, very well. So yeah, it's something to consider there.
I'd say Sinclair is one that you'd probably pick up if you're looking for an extra $40,000. Yeah, you need that money. You're just shy of getting out of a mid pricer to a fallen primo, for example, that is underpriced. Then I'd say sure, move away from a Stewart to a Sinclair. Free up that money in order to use it elsewhere. I have absolutely no problems with that. I think that is a very fair play, and I would actually recommend that.
Yeah, no, definitely. We were talking about Birdman before, and Big Dan Houston, he's only playing 1 bye this year, Joe. Port Adelaide for the flag. Haven't you heard the news these days?
Stuff him. Stuff him. That's all I have to say. Stuff him. Yes, I'm going to remove him. Nick Newman. I've seen some people think about Nick Newman. I personally wouldn't go there. Yeah. We've obviously got Zach Williams come back from his ACL. What does that mean for the side? They're going to have to balance it up. They've got Doherty, Sard, Williams. They've got a few cooks in that kitchen. So I don't know what that would mean for Nick Newman, whether or not we'll see more of what he did well in 2023. I think there's too many question marks to commit that much money when you've got someone who's a little bit cheaper right below him.
Yeah, the big thing is when you're picking these defender premiums, we go back to picking the sure picks, right? So you want to really limit the amount of question marks you've got on a player. I look at Deos, Sicily, even a Stewart, a Ryan, a Sinclair. We kind of know what we're getting a little bit. With the Nick Newman and that Carlton backline, you don't really know. Does he play a bit more wing? Does he play, wherever else, as you say, with Zach Williams coming in? So it's a no for me. There's a few other players, as you say, Big Harry Sheasel, who I'd most likely pick over him for a similar price.
Tell us more about Shees. You're the North man.
Hey, first year, wins Rising Star, ends up being 556K. I don't know if there's been a player. Now, fans can let me know in the comments, but I don't know if there's been a player who's played his first year in AFL and then ended up being basically premium price the next year in Supercoach. I know Oliver was there for a little bit. He's more expensive than Deos was last year when he first started. So, yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. North's backline, we're still using him in that position where he got all those points. We are kind of looking and playing him a little bit more in the midfield, but it's more with the backline focus as well. So using his IIQ, using his ball transition, that kind of thing. I don't really see his scoring dropping down, but it is a wait and see for this young player, especially with McKercher potentially coming in and playing a similar role. with Zach Fisher in there, and then a few other guys. The interesting thing about North Melbourne's defense is basically that we've lost like 3 or 4 key cogs in that team. Ben Mackay's gone. Griffin Loeb's injured. Who else is gone? Zeebel's gone. Aaron Hall's gone. A few of these older guys as well. So there's space for a lot of players to play different things and to kind of start fresh. So it's a big wait and see, but Harry Sheezel's a gun, and you're looking at 100 average probably from him every week. He's not best.
Another Dacos? Is he another Dacos? Sort of starting in the back line, moving midfield, and doing whatever he wants?
Yeah, I think he will be.
Excellent. All right, Sheezel's back in my side. All right, cheers, mate. Jaden Short is an interesting one. He plays for Richmond, which is cool because he's playing round 0. So we get to have a look and see.
Yeah, it's a no from me. Obviously, being able to play round 0 and kind of look at what he's doing is fantastic, but I'm kind of sticking away from Richmond players this year. New coach, new team. We haven't done the video with Swizz yet, but we'll touch on that a bit then. And kind of a bit of a no-show. I think there's guys at a better value. I'd rather pay less and get a Ridley or a Hayden Young, or spend a little bit more and get a Sheezel versus having Jaden Short. Because you don't know where he's going to play. One week he could be in the forward line like we've seen. Next week in the back line. Next week on the bench. Like, you just don't know.
Dimmer Hardwick was completely frazzled. He had no idea what to do. He's gone. I wouldn't talk about Lloyd.
Yeah.
The Swans, as long as Blakey is in the side, Lloyd will never be worthy of any among these guys, essentially. Jordana Ridley.
Well, you tell us about him. You've stolen Ben Mackay from us. How does that affect Ridley? What are you expecting from a Ridley this year?
It helps a lot. It really does. And I've watched some other people around the internet say that Ridley's a trap, etc., etc. We've heard this all before. No, we haven't. What you've heard before in the past was just straight out wrong. This trying to liken Mackay's arrival to Essendon the same as if when Kelly came to Essendon. Kelly isn't a key defender. Kelly isn't taking a number 1 forward. He is a medium small. He was always discussed when he was going to come to Essendon from Adelaide that he was going to do a job on the smalls and the mediums. That did not affect Ridley in the slightest. Mackay coming is an entirely different kettle of fish. Ridley is an amazing intercept defender. And the reason why he didn't score as well in the past is because he's had to play accountable defensive roles, especially when BZT was being beaten by the number 1 key forward. BZT, guys, lost the most defensive one-on-one contests in the entire league last year. Mm-hmm. Now, this is not because BZT is a bad player. No, don't get me wrong. I love BZT. He is just not a key defender. He is not a number 1 key defender. He will be an amazing second key or third, but he is not a number 1 key defender. And unfortunately, too many times, he would be beaten by his man. We'd have to switch it up, send Ridley to them, and then all those intercept marks go out the window. Mackay is a number 1 key defender. He will take the number 1 key forward. Ridley will not have to do that. As long as Mackay is healthy and out there on the ground, Ridley will not have to play the number 1, which means that he will be able to take marks. Ridley's one of the best defenders in the comp. He can take intercept marks on a second key forward. Don't worry about that. So I really reckon this is the year where things are finally starting to click, and he's such a beautiful ball user. He doesn't get clangers often. He just needs enough intercept marks, enough kick-ins to get his 100 points every week. And despite having to play one-on-one so much, he's still averaged 94.9, call it 95 for the year, whilst also covering for BZT. With Mackay, he can easily get an extra 5 points every game. That is less than 1 intercept mark. A contested intercept mark is 8 points. So you're telling me if you can get 1 more intercept mark a game, he can go over 100? I reckon that's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here first, guys. Joe says pick Ridley. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Callum Wilkie's not really one that's in my books at the moment. One that is in my books is Big Hayden Young. So a lot of people have been picking him. He's cheap. And we saw in the second half of the season where he did start to play a bit more of that midfield role. Apparently has been training with the midfield at Freo as well. Has a really good buy. Is he someone in your sights at the moment, Joe?
Absolutely. Hayden Young is 100% in the side. And if you don't have him in your side, then I think you're missing something really significant here. He got a lot of CBAs in the last 5 games of the season, I think, when he really had that permanent move into the midfield, and he averaged 107. So I think for that price, with an actual preseason training with the mids, he's going to do better than 107, guys, I reckon. So I think Hayden Young should be in all of our backlines. Plus, he plays for Freo with the great buys.
Well, that's it. It's a bit of a tricky one. He's at a good price where if he has a good week or two as well and then starts to fade, you should be able to trade him up to a player or at least a keeper in the position without much trouble. Not like his 350 or 400K where it's a bit awkward and you've got to downgrade to someone else and spend extra trades on the position. Lockie Whitfield is one I've seen in some people's teams. People thinking, hey, look, he's going to go back to that half-back position. Maybe we'll wait and see for him. Is there anyone else really on your list in that kind of up to 500K range that you're considering?
To be completely honest, I mean, there is some interest in Duggan. Now that Hearn is out, but I'm not entirely sure what that defensive unit is going to look like for West Coast, to be completely honest. Plus, he might be playing in the midfield as well. Some reports have coming out there. So, to be honest, no, not really. I mean, Angus Brayshaw was an interesting one. He was people were thinking about him last year with the news of obviously what happened with Clayton Oliver. With Clayton Oliver out of the side, it means there was more midfield time for Brayshaw, which made him a lot more relevant of a selection. Plus, he's a defensive mid. So him playing in round 0 is also interesting for us to have a look at to see just how much midfield time he gets with Clayton Oliver out of the side. So I wouldn't start him, but he's probably one to keep an eye on, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we'll probably touch on Himmelberg at a little bit of a cheaper price. And what's his face? Kadeem Coleman in our mid-pricer video. So, yeah, I guess that might be us wrapping this up today. Or Nazaya as well.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I know we both started him last year. We were both really big on Nazaya because we knew that this is what he was capable of.
That really worked out well.
Look, it worked out well, yeah, man. But look, we were justified in our reasoning. We put it out there. We told everyone what they were going to see, and they saw it. So we knew what we were talking about. Unfortunately, it took a lot longer for it to come on than we would have liked. But hey, Nazaya is one that people are selecting as well. For me, I'm not a big fan of this price point. This $475. It's like, I feel like it's a bit of no man's land and a bit of a gamble, like hoping that they can take that next step. Because if they can make 150K, it means that they're scoring as well as these guys. So essentially what you're doing is you're picking them as keepers, not as stepping stones. And that for me is a little bit nerve-wracking at that price point.
I just don't see it happening, to be fair. I really don't think there's anyone really there at that price. Maybe a Himmelberg at 450, potentially, because he's been around that mark, but he's really the one.
I mean, 450K. He's priced at 77. For him to make 150, he'd have to go at about 97. And for him to make 150, he'll become 600K, which is essentially what you're paying up to get like a Sinclair, for example. So, look, I don't know. I think the Giants are still going to be really good. I think their midfield is still as strong as ever. I'm not sure. I don't think Himmelberg is going to be close to the top 6. I reckon if he goes 90, good for him, but that's not top 6 to 8.
Yeah, maybe he gets to around 500K. But at that point, you probably would have been better off spending that bit of extra money with a rookie and getting a better premium anyway.
Yeah, so for me, I just don't think picking this, like you're picking at that point, I don't want to use an extra trade to trade him up to someone good. There's a bunch of players who are sub 600K this year that we didn't have last year. Last year, it was pretty scarce. I think most people were over 600. I think Sinclair's a lot fairer selection this year. Sheasel's very fairly priced. I think Ridley and Young are both also really tantalizing for their price points as well. And we've seen the scoring output of these guys. I think Stewart's probably a bit overpriced if he's going to be playing midfield. Out of all these guys, I'd probably stay away from Stewart the most, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Watch this bite me in the ass. But I honestly reckon I trust Luke Ryan more than Tom Stewart for 2024.
Wow. Big calls from Joe. All right, guys. Let us know what you think. Are we talking shit? Or do we have the kind of the inside of the knowledge of which players to pick up and which players not to pick up?
Yes. When we say we talking shit, it means me. But yes, guys, please let us know. Don't roast me too hard. I am coming back from holiday. I've got a tan line from my eyes because of my sunglasses. So please forgive me. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new, drop us a subscribe. Greatly help the channel. We are seeing some growth, which is absolutely sensational. Thank you guys so much. A like and hit that notification bell because we are pumping out more of these videos.
Yeah, remember, we're on Twitter. We're trying to grow the Facebook as well. And we'll have some unique kind of posts and information up on the Facebook channel this year. So definitely, if you're on Facebook, at the Centre Bounce.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching. We'll see you in the next one here at the Centre Bounce. We do the hard work,
so you don't have to. Bye for now.
Bye for now.